They did a really good one. I seem to remember a tape of that. And we'll see where we're going. You guys are active already.
See that?
Oh,
Holy
look at
moly.
that. We have a friend. Thank you, Grandmaster. You rock. That's so cool. All right, so where's that banner?
It's coming. Just waiting for you to bring up.
We've got it together.
First.
So
there we go.
I was yeah. Well, I want to hear what you think about the show. It was not my favorite of the tour.
It was not your favorite. You're saying that. I mean, I think it was a little. It's almost like a hangover show. It felt a little like they had a couple days, like they went hard for a weekend, then had a couple days off, and kind of needed to calibrate.
What about they usually have one day off, and this time they had two? Do you think that could throw them?
Well, but they played back-to-back nights too, and usually they've only been playing, other than like LA, they've been playing one show night off, one show night off kind of thing. So they kind of got in that pattern, that routine, and then two back-to-backs, which I thought the Chicago shows were really strong. So, you know, you were coming off a really good performance. It was just, maybe it was a little, I don't know. You know, it is what it is. You're not always going to hit 29 shows are going to be off the chart.
Right, exactly. Somebody's got to be at the bottom.
Right. So that being said, though, it wasn't terrible. It had some moments. It still had some great moments in it that we'll talk about, and some cool things, especially in the second set. So I think there was still some elements there. It just was not their strongest night of the run.
Right. I feel like I'm never going to see Easy Answers. That is not going to be showing up. In 21 maybe, or 19. It used to be in the middle of music, and I really like them bringing in the latter era songs. I think Eternity would fit perfectly with this band, but we're not going to see that. And I don't like the Broadway-fication of music at the end. Never stopped. It doesn't. The cool thing about Music Never Stopped was that the end of it, they went into the jam and then just came back to the little theme, and they were out of there without singing anything.
Yeah, I agree. And I do miss that, because there's certain songs that, as we've talked about, the way they've changed some of the endings and stuff and made it their own and made ways out of it. So there can be an ending without having to just sort of fizzle out or jam into something else. So some of those you're going to win with, some of those you're not. This is one of those that you're not. I kind of miss the old way. It's still a great tune. I still love it. I still love the lyrics, and you still have the get down and everything, you know, like it's great jam. Mayer was driving it, you know, Bobby with his vocals, which even in the first song, in the first hole, it was a little froggy, so I was like, oh, he probably still trying to get it back from 2 nights in Chicago, but fun way to open the show.
Right, exactly. And then we got a first timer. Actually, we got 3 first timers coming up, but next time you see me, you lied and you cheated, and thank you, Mayor. That is another one that's totally in your wheelhouse.
This song, he would be a fool not to play this song solo, like once he's out of this, and like those nights when he just shows up at random bars and wants to play guitar and gets on stage. This is like that song. It is so perfect for him, and he just crushes these blues songs. Like it's fantastic. It was so good.
It was, and then we got the Me and My Uncle.
Yep. Which this little stretch is kind of like these two are fun together, like those back to back. You know,
I was surprised that was the first Me and My Uncle. That was like such a workhorse for Bobby for so many years.
Forever. Like it was really in that with, you know, like El Paso and like the Mexicali Blues and like all of those that you don't really get anymore.
Mama Tried.
Yeah.
The Cowboy songs. Yeah.
Cowboy songs, Americanas.
Right. A lot of people like Ro Jimmy.
You're not one of those people, because you were bitching about this. You were trying to jinx it the other night in Chicago that they were gonna do it. Why? What is your deal with Ro Jimmy?
I wish the guy got his boat ashore. It just, the lyric annoys me, and it's lilting. It never gets past a slow gallop, you know.
But that's kind of its pace. That's kind of what makes it unique. And I'm surprised you don't like it for the lyrics, like the grass shack nailed to a pine wood floor. I always love that lyric. Like it just.
I think the best lyric is the jukebox lyric. Peace don't buy no more, and that's when the song actually picks up to like a
little bit. Yeah. But I hear. I mean,
Never did. And apparently Garcia loved the song.
Yeah.
So what do I know?
I'm surprised yeah, that's one of those I'm surprised that you don't appreciate more. But I understand, and I thought in this case, though, I thought it was a really good setup for Dear Mr. Fantasy. I thought it set it up well coming out of it. When they went into it, I was like, oh, that kind of, it makes sense right here. It was a nice lead in for it. And in that Dear Mr. Fantasy, didn't it seem like they went into Hey Jude kind of fast? I don't know. Like, I always kind of remember it being a little bit later in the song, like kind of after, right? Like you kind of went into it towards the end of the song, or maybe after. I don't know. I felt like they rushed right into it. It was like, all right, we're in Jude now. And then, so I don't know.
That one doesn't fit for me. The Mr. Fantasy Hey Jude, I don't know what it is, and it's one of those ones that I see on paper and I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad that they broke that out. And when they're playing it, I don't know what it is. I'm just not feeling it. I actually had to go back every time, all 3 times they've done Fantasy, to make sure they did the Jude reprise because I tuned out. And the next thing I knew, they were playing another song.
I got one. I think it was in last summer Dodger Stadium show. I think we got one. But yeah, I was kind of the same. That was my piss break song during that too. Like I don't know. I'm not a huge Fantasy fan, but then the way they do it ever, even when they did it with Brent and like everything before, it was never one of my like favorite tunes to hear from them anyway. So I've never been a huge fan. So Dead and Co doing it, I'm not exactly like thrilled to get it at any point. And I appreciate how they've played with it and have fun with always bringing the Jude reprise into it and doing it. But yeah, I think there's, whatever. It is what it is.
Right. All right, then we hit the Cassidy, and
you have strong feelings about this one. You have strong feelings about this one. I know.
It was so slow. Oh my God. It seemed like they purposely were like, let's do it even slower than we normally do it. Maybe that's the way Bobby, we've seen them changing arrangements during tour. It was one way one time. They love each other, kind of thing. I just feel it sounded off to me. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was just me tonight who was off. I don't know.
They, I mean, there's some agreement there. I think, yeah, it wasn't my favorite Cassidy. And for the third one, as we've been saying the last few nights, when they're getting into these 3s, sometimes 4s, even the songs have been picking up and really getting a different tone and a different feel to them. And this one kind of didn't have that,
Didn't gel.
It didn't gel. And it's funny, as I was looking back at the set list too, and a few nights ago they did, actually it was 6-1, they did Dear Mr. Fantasy, Hey Jude into Birdsong. And that was the night that Birdsong closed that set, and we were kind of like, oh, it's kind of weird having Birdsong shut that set down. Tonight they did it and went into Cassidy, and then the last time they played Cassidy, they played the Don't Ease Me In after to end the set. Tonight they did the Cassidy and did the Ico to end the set. So it was a little bit of a change up there with going with the Fantasy Jude into the Cassidy and then having the Ico close the set. But just something that I picked up on like from before when they did
do you think the song before sets the pace for the song after? Like Hey Jude is kind of slow, and then Cassidy's the next song, and it was slower than normal. Do you think it's just the fact of trying to pick up and play something at a completely different speed?
Possibly. And I think there's times too, yes, I think there's times when there's slower songs played for certain reasons, and maybe at certain times too they're not going to get, because I thought a lot of the first set songs didn't get to that other jammy level tonight. It was a lot more bluesy. It felt a lot more like Muddy tonight, like it was a slower pace, a slower like crawl through everything. It wasn't a hot show, wouldn't say, it was a little bit slower, a little bit jammier. So I think with some of those slower songs especially, they really got pulled down into some like molasses and really kind of slowed it down.
And then Ico, I guess it was serviceable. I don't know. It's really different. Ico seems to me really different than when the Dead played it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would always take Women Smarter over Ico, and I don't think they've done Women Smarter. They
did a Women, yeah.
Did they? Yeah, I always like hearing that a lot more. It's so much more fun. So yeah, and that was the end of the first set. I mean, at least you got that Ico to kind of bring you up a little bit out of the Cassidy before set break, but wasn't a ripping,
Right.
awesome awesome song to lead into set break. So,
Right. And with that, let's remind everybody to like, subscribe if you haven't already, ring the bell so you get notifications. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your $1.49. We got tomorrow night. We got something going on. We are getting the band back together, and Wook Plus Live is going to be. If you haven't ever seen an old Wook Plus Live, we're going to give a nod back to that tomorrow, and we are going to have Benji Eisen, Bill Kreutzmann's manager, on to not talk about Dead and Company, but talk about Trey this weekend at the Mission. So make sure that you tune in for that. And I'm trying to go to Philly. I really am trying. My oldest wants to go. The younger one's going to Ocean City. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. If not, I'll be here, but somebody will be here, and we will be here through the rest of the tour. We're almost to the halfway point. I guess halfway through the show on Saturday at SPAC is going to be 14 and a half. Because
there
it's
you go.
29.
They'll officially be halfway through at that point.
Yeah, so that'll be halfway through. So make sure that you do that. If you're watching later, you can comment. You can do like Funky Witch did and leave, and you can donate some money if you want. We will always be happy to do that. We will get you a shout out. And with that, let's pull up that second. There we go. All right. So set 2, Here Comes Sunshine. It's another Wake of the Flood song. And I guess I think that the Wake of the Flood album is feeble, is my best word to describe it.
Feeble.
Right.
Okay.
I could take or leave everything but Let Her Grow and Stella wanted probably.
Yeah. I always liked Sunshine. Again, I was at the Bust Out show in Phoenix when it came back, so it always has a little special place in my heart for that. I always like those opening notes and everything with it. I don't think, again, like everything tonight, it had a really grooving jam going, and then I thought it was interesting they ripcorded it, and I was like, oh man, they're coming back into the song already. But then immediately after that, he took it for another walk and just got places with it. I thought it was a fantastic little jam to open the set. Like him and Chimente going back and forth. Just that was one again when they get in that zone and Jay behind him hitting it. Like it was so much fun. And then Mayer gives him that little signal to come back into it, and they come back into it, and then he goes on the bigger signal to get back into the song, drop right back into the song for the next verse. I thought that was that. These first 2 songs out of the gate for the second set, I thought were the highlights of the night.
Oh, really?
They really came back from set break. They must have had dinner, filled up a little bit, and came back out and were ready to go, because I thought this was one of those songs that just has been like kind of defining them over this tour. Just they were firing. It hit a nice little groove jam in there, and they brought it in for a really nice landing too, I thought, at the end. So
look at that.
I liked it.
We have a winner.
Ooh, Nate.
Big spender. Okay, my meat of the show was the viola, but the Looks Like Rain. I thought that the Looks Like Rain, Bobby really nailed. But let's talk about the viola. I wish that we got a split one where it was longer. It feels like when it really gets taking off, they pull it back in and go back to the verse.
Yeah, well, tonight was a very different one as it was anyway. Like I said, like it was very slow. It was very trudgy. It was
methodical,
thick, heavy. Yeah, slower than usual. Very bluesy. Like Mayer really leaned into that first set. Next Time You See Me feeling in this one. Like he really kind of got that vibe going, and it's very deliberate. That jam, just slow build. And it didn't, it never really got to that major peak where it's, and like rips back into it. So you're not like in that super high, but it was like it was good because it kept that tone kind of going, that slower tone, that slower feeling. But man, when they got into that Sissy Strut jam, come on, that was fun. Like a little funky meters going on there. And oh, I love that. That was, yeah, I think coming out of the Sunshine into that, fits so well. Like that was definitely the highlight of the night for me.
It was an unfunky Sissy Strut there. But I definitely heard it too. Did you catch the China Cat licks?
Yes, and a little
Mayer
bit of
tipped
that.
his hand right before the verse with some China Cat licks there. But
Yep.
let's talk about the Looks Like Rain. It was first time it appeared this tour. I guess it had rained during halftime is what everyone was telling me, and then the sun came out, so they played Here Comes Sunshine. Makes me look like an ass. But I just Looks Like Rain is one of those songs that I used to be like, oh man, waste of space back in the old days. But now I'm like, how many? It's the first one this tour, and we're 14, 13 shows in, it's and I thought that Bobby really did a good job with it. I think that he still handles that lyric beautifully, and his voice probably sounded the strongest of the night during that.
Definitely sounded the strongest of the night during that. I thought the same thing. And it's one of the few Bobby songs that when the old band was together that I appreciated, which is funny to say, but like we talk about back, Velveeta Bobby, and like I wasn't as appreciative of like his contributions a lot of times, other than on certain songs that I personally liked. Wasn't always the biggest Bobby fan, so hearing him sing on a lot of those tunes, I was like, oh man, like really. Looks Like Rain was always one that I just appreciated because I don't know, I kind of just not really was in on the joke with it, but just kind of I appreciated it for what it was, and it was just one of those songs. It had some funny, decent lyrics in it that
Right.
get it. And I always like the end was one of those endings of the songs where he would just go crazy with the stop the rain or look like no, and those were always fun. I always loved when he'd get super Velveeta and do those.
I think my issue back in the day was I didn't believe in love. So I was like, whatever, nonsense.
So you just
But
didn't appreciate the song to that.
I did have a cat run out the front door once, and the sound of street cats making love is a real thing that will pierce your ears like you wouldn't believe.
Those lyrics are so like when you hear them though, immediately it's one of those things that just goes in your head. You're like, yeah, you're right. When you hear that, it does, and it's just one of those things that every time you hear that song and you think of that, it just paints
and the riff at the end. When Garcia would nail it. If you listen to some of the early Looks Like Rains from the 70s, Garcia didn't do the little triples,
Mm-hmm.
And that was always the,
yep,
the sweetness. All right, so another Trying to Rider before drums.
Serviceable, does its business. You get, you're getting what you're getting at this point. It's third time they've played it, so I thought that Rider had a little bit of salt on it tonight, which was fun. Before it went into drums, which was cool. Like they kind of really got going on it. But yeah, I mean, they're fun. They're what they
I
are.
still say they need cannons for I Wish I Was a Headlight part. Boom! Smoke fills the arena, the amphitheater there.
Yes.
So drums, again, there was nothing it seems like Mickey is going over, hitting the beam at the beginning of drums now. Going over, they do the drum part where all three of them, and then he goes back and hits the beam again. So
I liked the second round of the beam. I thought after they did the initial drums, I thought when he was on the beam was fun tonight. I don't know, it had a different sound to it, like the beeps and bloops on it. It kind of sounded like when you're in line at Space Mountain and there's like mission control, like it was really cool. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like it was a much more. I don't know. Yeah, tonight I thought was a fun.
Do you remember
beam.
the Mr. Spock Mickey shirts?
Yeah.
There was a crossover back in, I guess, the 90s. It had to be in the 90s.
Yep. And then from the beam into space, which again, it doesn't.
I was here in Dark Star.
Oh yeah,
I was.
It's very similar though with the way it slows down and tinkers and like gets into that very place before it comes out. And then I always love though when the wheel comes out of it, the way that the way the notes come out of the space. It's just
the Out of Space has been must-watch TV the last few nights. I mean, they've been nailing it since, I guess, Nissan every night. Tonight's, again, maybe it was me, but Wheel just didn't seem to take off really, There you go. Thank you.
But then on the other side,
right.
So everyone has an opinion. See, and I don't know. I'm always excited to hear it. It was funny to see O'Teal sitting for it. You got a little like George Porter vibe there, which is funny because they played the Meters
Wheel did
tease
have a nice
earlier.
jam. Wheel did have a nice jam before the stay a little bit longer
It did.
part that
It
they
did.
do,
And
but
there was a really good like big jam that turned into a bigger jam. And then there was a little bit of even on a tease in there, which I couldn't quite pick up. I don't know if anybody else heard it, but in that jam, there was a noticeable tease that they had for a bit that they kind of went into for a little bit and then came out of that into another little bit of a jam. And Gemente on the piano and not just the organ and the keys is so, I love seeing that. Like it just, that sound in there is
I would have
better
liked
for
some
the
more.
wheel.
I would have liked some more pep in my step with the wheel there.
But that was kind of the theme tonight, right? Like everything was like we said, you're stuck in the mud tonight. It was a little slower going. You couldn't quite get it into that
It was
last
some
gear.
weird vortex, and as Lama put it, the second most popular city in Ohio.
There you go. Exactly.
All right. So Wharf Rat, I have a love for Wharf Rat, and I again, I feel like I'm a broken record here.
What? No.
Bobby just doesn't phrase it quite right. And that's one of those So Garcia, that and Terrapin are just So Garcia. Yes, there was a Soul Planet piece.
Love it. Jeff is the dude, you know my take. I will say though, I feel like the MVP of this tour, we were talking early, was Jeff. I honestly think the more we go through it, it might be Jay. I just feel like what he has done, he is the thing that I think has kind of catapulted them into this next realm of like how good they're playing right now.
Somebody with a
don't know.
J in their name.
It's we talked about that. The 3 J's and an O needs to be the next,
OJs.
the OJs. But I agree. I mean, we've talked about this before, and there's certain songs that are hard to break free from.
They're personal. They're Jerry's personal property,
right? And it's hard to hear Bobby singing, and Bobby sings it his way, and whatever. And so you have to like put that in that category and say, okay, I'm going to accept it for what it is. But some nights you feel differently and you don't want to. So it's understandable. Right. It is what it is. It's a tough song to allow someone else to play and have memories with, But I will say one thing. Bobby hit a couple good notes in it. And I have in my notes, and I thought he brought it in for a really nice landing at the end of it.
Felt it was.
Go ahead.
It was slow on slow though.
Yeah, it was slow and slow, but I thought that's what was nice. He brought it in for a nice landing, and then the Casey Jones was a nice pick right out of that into the next one. I thought that segue was like nice, and okay, we'll land this one, and then let's get off with the last one here. I thought that was
right.
I thought that was good.
I'm not sure where I am still on Casey Jones closing the set for the second set. I could see it closing the first set. It just, I don't know. It was never a first set closer.
I agree. Yeah, it is. It's very, because you kind of want more after that, and like not you're kind of, and especially the way they play
around. Where's an around?
Yeah, and I don't feel like tonight, especially with everything else that we talked about, I didn't feel like Mayer doesn't bring that energy with the other lyrics before you get into the big lyrics, and the driving the cocaine and all that, and those lyrics. Until you get into that, the rest of the lyric, he doesn't excite you, right? With the song, when he sings it in that sort of monotone bluesy ways, it's a little bit slower. So yes, to your point, it didn't, especially tonight, it didn't quite to end the show.
It always does have a great jam in it. It
does. Great jam. I mean, it reminds me of like some of those Fish songs though, where like you got to push through the lyrics to get to the jam, and then once you're in the like Soul Planet, for instance, we just brought up, once you're in the jam, you're like, fuck yes, the song jam rules. But like getting there, it's different, obviously, because it's Fish's lyrics, and we're not comparing Fish to Dead lyrics. But I'm just saying, there's those elements where Casey Jones and the way they're playing it these days, Mayer's voice and things, just like we said with Bobby, doesn't lend to a super fast paced excitement song. So once they get in the jam, you're like, here we go.
Right. And then we got the Touch of Grey Encore, which was pretty good speed. I love that Bobby and Mayer split the lyric. I think that's fun.
Yep. I agree. And it is, it is what it is. It's, it doesn't sound, because they've played it, I don't know, it's because it's not, again, a Jerry owned tune or like their own tune, so it has that flexibility to be able to be changed up a little bit and different, and what they do with it now I think is serviceable and fun, and it's a good way to close the show. My first ever show I went to in 91 at Mile High, they opened with A Touch of Grey. So I always have kind of
a soft spot.
that was the first song I ever heard the
I'm
Dead
with
play
you.
live. So, you know,
I'm
but
with you.
yeah, it's fun to close the show with, and you know, and more and more poignant lyrics as the years go by. You know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We
Kev's
love
bad
you,
takes are
Daisy.
definitely worth $2.
We love you, Daisy. And so we're on to Philly next. I probably will be here. We'll see if the ticket gods smile on us and me and Kai can figure something out.
Do it, man. Get down there. I will be out Thursday night. I'll be at a Dodgers game watching.
And tomorrow 9:00, check out Live. It's gonna be fun. Hogan's Slogans will be back.
Oh, way to ruin it. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I mean, I've been teasing that shit all day. All right.
I will say though, this tour rolls on. Still, you know, it's still awesome. Thanks for watching. I think, you know, Philly's gonna be fun this weekend. Again, back-to-back nights, right? Thursday, Friday, isn't it?
No, Thursday and then Saturday, Sunday is back.
Thursday, Saturday, Sunday are the back tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how those go.
Yeah.
Be fun.